And for us, it wasn't about saying like, what are their powers? It was about saying, what do they want? Who are these people? How do they fit together as a family? And so that became a sort of great process of really building this sort of eternal, immortal circus family of very different people that, love each other, sometimes hate each other, get in fights.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
We're ready. Thank you, William. It's nice. It's a pleasure to talk to you. We're looking forward to this.
Hey, fellas, how's everything? Where are you both at? Kaz, I love the background. You're like in some cabin.
It's even better when you're at the higher view, but my computer is misbehaving. So currently I'm just here improvising on my phone until further notice. But yes, I'm here in the middle of West Hollywood, like very central. It's real nice here. It's a little hot, to be honest. So
yeah, funny piece of trivia. Kaz is actually in my old apartment.
No way.
My wife and I, when we first moved to LA, that's the apartment that we got. And so we were there about like 7 or 8 years. And then Kaz came and took it over when we moved out to Altadena, which is where I live now. So this apartment, which is a really amazing apartment, has been in our family for like over 10 years now.
Well, he's keeping it clean at least. You know what I mean?
It looks very tidy.
It's way cooler than when we lived there. Yeah, he knows how to decorate.
There you go. Keeping the family. Love it. Well, hey, I think Kaz lost you for a second.
If Shelby lets me into the main
there we go.
Zoom, I believe I'm back in business, but we're also ready to kick it off.
You're back in business. Well, guys are looking good. And, I'm just wondering, you guys must be like a hell of a pitch guys. I mean, starting with like shorts and everything, then you jump to writing screenplay for Marvel. I mean, that's a big jump in your careers. You guys must be having one hell of a presentation or pitch. I'm curious how kind of you guys jump to that level. I mean, it takes some experienced writers sometimes to get an opportunity to write for Marvel, and you guys kind of start small, then bam, almost seems like, overnight, but you guys worked for a long time. So tell me how the journey kind of happened for you guys to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely like all Hollywood success stories, I think, are 10-year overnight successes. You work very hard, you put down, you get those scripts, you've got all your ideas together. And when the door opens, you have to be ready to step through. You have to be ready to step through with all those materials that's going to get you where you need to go. For us, it really was sort of a lifelong project. Ryan and I have been making movies since we were little kids in his backyard. And writing this script was really just the sort of culmination of that. We're both filmmakers, who write, and we came from the worlds of documentary. So this was sort of just an opportunity where we finally wrote that one script. We didn't have agents, we didn't have managers, and we just put out all our ideas into this project that sort of opened a lot of doors for us in Hollywood. It was called Ruin, and it ended up topping the blacklist and really getting us that first meeting with Kevin and Nate. And so from there, it just became doing the work, showing up, and having good ideas.
Yeah, and I would say also that I would give a lot of credit to Kaz as far as like as far as pitching, as far as presenting ourselves. Kaz was a commercial director before his life as a writer director in Hollywood, and so he would just basically pitch and try to sell himself on just 5 projects a week. And I think that just really was like a supercharger basically for that skill set. And so then when we started going out together, he really kind of helped me kind of elevate to that level. And it all started from just like our general meetings. We just had a lot of really good chemistry and a lot of really good conversations with a lot of different people. And that just really helps kind of spread your reputation around and makes it so that people are like, yeah, I'd spend an hour in a room with those guys. That's fine. And then that sort of evolved into the pitches. And I mean, not to toot our own horn, but yeah, I think we can put together a pretty good pitch when we need to.
Certainly can, considering you ended up here. I'm kind of curious. You guys have worked together before. You are family. How is it kind of the dynamic? Do you disagree sometimes? Do you like know each other's thoughts? Like, what's the sort of working dynamic between you two? A lot of times, especially in a movie like this, did you guys have one idea and the other and kind of like need to convince each other? I'm curious what the working relationship is, because I mean, especially if you're family members, you have that kind of more directness, I'm guessing, than it would be working with a stranger. So how do you get along, in a sense, working together on scripts?
Yeah, well, I think that the family aspect, we always joke all the time that if we weren't family, we probably would have broken up a long time ago. So that's kind of like kept us together. But I think, the dynamic is just the dynamic that you look for with any kind of partnership, where, you both identify your strengths and weaknesses, and then you embrace them, and then you work together to help to complement each other, So we figured out, we didn't sit down and have a conversation about this, but over time working together, we started to figure out like, well, where are the things where Kaz excels and where are the things that I excel? And then, and we kind of fell into those dynamics, and would help each other both, improve upon the things that we were weaker at, but also be there to be strong for the stuff that we weren't strong at. That was very poorly worded.
Who's strong at what point? Yeah. I'm curious here.
Here's a good segue. That's a good segue. Ryan and really brings, that was a really good segue. Ryan brings a tremendous amount of character and depth, and his scripts before we worked together, before we met, and I loved them. I'd read about 10 of them probably, was that they were really interested in an emotional journey, the internal journey, and for me, where I kind of come from, bigger stories, comics, video games, and just sort of having a sort of a larger world, mythological sort of bird's eye view. I minored in classics in school. I studied ancient Greek, everything from Homer's Odyssey to Ovid's Metamorphoses, and sort of looking at the way these stories, we've been telling them again and again for 2,000 years about people and gods and the mythology of this world, people with powers acting, infallible and fallible. And so for me, when I think about that, that's sort of, I look at the rules of a universe and work my way in. Ryan starts at the soul of the universe and works his way out, and we usually meet somewhere in the middle. And I think Eternals is just a perfect example of that movie.
Interesting. When we talk Eternals here, how long was the script? I mean, because the movie's like 240 or something. I'll admit, I dozed. I went to a really late screening. Stupid move. I dozed off for 10 minutes, I guess, in the first 30 minutes of the movie of it. Then woke up and stayed through it. But not to go to like 11:30 at night screening. That's another thing for a long movie like this. But how long of a script did you guys have? Like, how much did you have to, in a sense, from your script, to get rid of things that you wanted to keep in there? And because I'm guessing this is a lot of stuff that you have that can only make it to, a runtime in a movie that always gets cut. Are you pleased with what you got in there?
Yeah, I mean, we're really happy. I mean, I think the movie is very, very close to even some of our early pitches for the movie, and our early drafts. Like the basic bones of the movie kind of stayed constant throughout the whole process. But in terms of just like the volume, a typical screenplay is about like 100 to 120 pages. Yeah. And I think our first draft of Eternals was like, I think it was like 201 pages or something like that, or maybe 198. It was a tome, and so our first mission was just kind of, paring it down, and a lot of that is just, it's not necessarily like losing things. It's more just concentrating things, it's just more just like taking this, but instead of it happening in 3 scenes, it happens in 1 scene, and you just do that over and over. And then you end up with a story that still hits all the same beats and is spiritually the same. It's just more concentrated and tighter. So that was a big part of the process in the early days. And then I think maybe by draft, by like draft 2.5, we'll say, we had it down to like a reasonable, like 130-ish. And then it just became about playing with the different story elements and trying to work within that framework.
Kaz, anything on your end, or?
Oh shoot, I think he might be frozen.
He might be frozen. He'll come back.
Yeah.
he would just jump in midway. That's fine with that.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you can answer this too. There's like 5 groups and generations in a sense of Eternal characters. There's a lot of them out there. And you guys kind of plucked them out from different generations, the characters for this film. How did that come about? How was this sort of selection process, instead of like focusing, Kaz, you're back in there, I'm talking about the generations of the characters getting into it. How, because there's 5 different generations. How did you guys decide to pluck out certain characters from different generations instead of maybe going to like a first generation Eternals only and focusing on those key characters. What was the decision-making process in that? Because I thought it was a good mix of different generations of characters blending him into the film version.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing we do is we don't look at them as, intellectual property or something that we have to do. It starts as characters and we start as people. And as soon as you start thinking of your action figures as something more than that, that's when it really starts to take on a soul of its own. And so for us, when we were choosing these characters, there's a laundry list of about 100 Eternals that exist with all these different amazing powers. And for us, it wasn't about saying like, what are their powers? It was about saying, what do they want? Who are these people? How do they fit together as a family? And so that became a sort of great process of really building this sort of eternal, immortal circus family of very different people that, love each other, sometimes hate each other, get in fights. So for us, it wasn't about, which generation and which run are we pulling from, but it was like, how do these people fit together? And can we create a lot of like conflict triangles and interpersonal dynamics and love stories and all of these things that are really the soul of drama? That's what we were really looking for.
Ryan, was there any character that you wanted to fight for in a sense or make the cut, or you guys pretty much agreed on everyone from the start, or was there kind of like a little trade-off going on between you two?
Well, not a. Well, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking about our early conversations and early drafts with Nate Moore, who, for reasons that I still have yet to understand, he just was a huge fan of Vampiro, and he kept trying to push Vampiro to be in there, which he was in the early drafts. But then there were just too many, and he got consolidated. But yeah, there are some Eternals that I really liked. But they couldn't be in this one just because they were too similar to the ones that we'd already chosen. Because you want to have diversity, not in just their backgrounds, but also in their characters. And so so I understood why they couldn't be in there, but I'm not going to really name them because maybe they'll get used later in other iterations of Eternals. So yeah, we shall see.
Well said there. One thing that also stood out about this movie, of all the Marvel movies, this one has a sex scene in it and it kind of stays in it. And there's a lot more kissing. There's a lot more sort of like emotional stuff that we don't see, and intimacy things that we didn't see in previous Marvel movies. Certain characters are like together, but we didn't really get to see it depicted on screen. I thought that was like it stood out to me for sure, being a fan of Marvel Universe and just seeing that incorporate. How important was it to kind of show the relationships and the more intimacy aspects of it in this film that we haven't seen before?
Yeah, I think it was intrinsic just from the beginning that these are three-dimensional characters. When you're with somebody for 7,000 years, you feel stuff. You feel love, you feel hate. And that we wanted from the beginning for this movie to be, I don't want to say it's challenging, because in your lifetime, I really hope that, you probably will kiss and be kissed by someone. But what we really wanted to do is to just reflect.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, Jim, I have faith. And really, it's just like, it's something that this is a natural part of existence. It's actually not only is it natural, it's a really beautiful part of existence. So love is love. And that was something we wanted to reflect in all of its forms in this film, from its characters, from the different relationships in the film. It's really a film about, emotion, which that's what you're really saying is, there's lots of feelings in a lot of different Marvel movies, but for once, this is really something that puts that front and center and really puts it on display, because what these people are going through is really traumatic. It's really significant. And most importantly, it's something that they've been grappling with for 7,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any pushback for it maybe, or is this something that was understood from the start that you guys had the free reign to do? Because obviously it's kind of bold to do. Marvel's been around for a while, and it's kind of first time a little bit pushing the boundaries there. Or how did you guys feel about, having that instilled and the go ahead, I guess, the green light to do that?
Yeah, well, like we alluded to earlier, we got the Eternals job because of the script and because of a general meeting that we had with Nate. And one thing that was really great about that general meeting is just hearing how much Marvel wants to push themselves. When we were talking about phase 4 and where they can go, it was very clear that they understood that they had created a formula, they had a lot of success with this formula, but they weren't just going to rest on their laurels and just keep churning out the same thing. They were really interested in challenging not just their audiences, but themselves as filmmakers. So they were very, very interested to go to places that it was actually just something like, if there was any mandate, that was maybe a mandate they put on themselves to just go places that they hadn't gone before. So so Marvel was very supportive from the beginning of including physicality between these characters, because this is a movie that's about humanity, and it's about evolution, and it's about the whole of human existence. And biologically speaking, sex is a really important component to all that, if you know a little bit about science. So it seems
It
like
certainly is.
it's an important part of the story, so yeah, so we really were really inspired by how much Marvel was willing to step outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad you guys kind of went for it and stood, true to like what you're saying. It's the extra dimension in a sense, and of the truth of the characters in so many ways too. I was kind of fascinated the way the movie positioned Kit Harrington's character. He's kind of the non-eternal in a world around them, and kind of getting used to that world. What do we kind of have in store? Because there's obviously, you stay for the ending credits always with a Marvel movie. You see that. How important is that character going forward for you in this Eternals universe? And because he's the one kind of, in a sense, the wild card, I'd say, of all of them in that essence. I thought it's a really interesting character that there's a lot more that we can grasp from. What are kind of the plans for him maybe in the future, or how did you guys position him for this movie?
You want to take
right
that,
away? Yeah, I'll take it. It's Dane Whitman has a long history in the comics. He's a really fascinating character. He's had a lot of ups and downs and sideways journeys. His powers are very strange, and he just felt like the perfect counterpoint to the Eternals. In particular, I mean, there's runs where Dane and Cersei are dating, so that was an immediate inspiration where it was like sort of a no-brainer to introduce this character, because whenever you can, Marvel's always looking for ways to open doors. We don't necessarily know if we're going to step through every door, but this is an interesting one. It's an interesting opportunity. We loved, Kit Harrington. No one has that kind of just absolute instant gravitas where you just want to hang out with this person. You want to see more of this person. I can confirm he's as much of a gentleman as you'd wish he'd be in real life, And so right away with Black Knight, it's just like, we don't know where that's going to go, but we are excited to see it. And I think that's what happens in the Marvel universe. You spend a lot of time sort of laying track and hoping people are going to latch onto this, and they're excited to see that, and this has already been confirmed. But, right now it sounds like Blade and Dane are going to team up for some ass kicking. And we're pretty excited to see where that goes, with Stacey Osaka Fur's draft and everything they're doing in the Blade verse, which is going to sort of cross over into all our other stories. So that's definitely something we're looking forward to.
That'll be super cool. One thing always kind of, when I speak to writers and all, there's an interesting here dynamic between what I do and what you guys do in a sense. And, this movie, people pay attention a lot to critics and Rotten Tomato scores. And it's an interesting dynamic because you guys put in so much work to something, and it's based on someone's kind of opinion on it. And then the movie does great in the box office, and the fans seem to love it because there's the fan score and then the critic score. How does it make you guys feel about that sort of stuff? Do you take in much about what critics say and these sort of Rotten Tomato scores? Or are you just happy if you get a good fan reaction or box office? What's kind of your take on it? Because I guess it's kind of it'd be a tough thing to be a writer, to have to depend on certain, a hand full of people to kind of rise your project or bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a tumultuous subject, but the short thing I can say is we're incredibly proud of the movie. It's what we set out to tell. It's a beautiful story, and I think that it's really found its audience. And that's really what you every time you set out to tell a story, you hope that people see themselves in it, that it connects to people. And this is a story that's very ambitious. It's doing different things. It's challenging. It's exciting. And really, I think it's a movie that people are still going to be talking about. That's what I love most about this whole Eternals experience has been, this is a movie that people have strong opinions about. They have a strong feeling about it, and they want to argue with their friends. They want to go on the internet. They want to attack it. They want to defend it. That's what art does. I mean, that's one of the great pleasures of my life, that we made a Marvel movie that is everyone talking, and I think that's the fun part. I love all Marvel movies, for different reasons and different ways. And this is a movie that I think that really stands out. And I think that that's all you could hope to do as an artist, is to make something that makes people angry and jealous and loud, and they want to talk about it and they want to love it. And, and I think we've seen it, time and again, that this is a movie that really connects with people, and that's all you could hope to do. We love critics just as much as we hate critics, just as much as we love our audiences. You know?
I hate him too, and I'm one of them.
And hey, we have a lot of, and I understand absolutely, it's a part of somebody's job, and that's the fun part, is to make art that makes you feel something. And I think we really succeeded in that. And this is a very special movie. And I think what Chloe made and sort of the whole Eternals family, we're all very, very proud of the film.
I agree.
Yeah, I echo everything that Kaz said. And if you look at the metrics, then clearly that this is a divisive movie, but we would encourage everyone to just go and see it for yourself and make your own decision.
That's well said. Hey, I'm a fan, so I enjoyed it. I think you guys did something interesting and deep, and I like that Marvel's pushing boundaries, and you guys are kind of like on the forefront of this new phase. And before I wrap up, finally, I wanted to know, what do you guys like to do for fun? I'm curious, what are sort of things you get away when you're not writing? Any hobbies, interests to kind of clear your mind when you're after all the writing you guys do?
Ryan, you either go first or second. Yeah. It's going to be tough.
I'll just go.
You go first.
I mean, I have 2 small children, so I basically two beautiful small children. So that's kind of my life anytime that I'm away from work. But in addition to that, I'm a very avid photographer. So I take lots of photos, both on film and digital, and also I'm an avid golfer.
Oh. See, I love learning these little tidbits. That's awesome. Would have never known. Yeah. How about you, Kaz?
That is a good question. Well, if I had my higher angle, you might see my surfboard.
I did, yes.
Without just sounding a little bit ridiculous, it's just true. I recently went surfing in Nicaragua, and we were chasing like barreling waves. So I surf often, usually once or twice a week. I actually took a surfboard to the face about a month and a half ago and got 5 stitches. And then I also climbed the Matterhorn in the Alps about a month and a half ago. So I've been a mountaineer for years. I've climbed Kilimanjaro and the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc. And Matterhorn was by far the hardest thing I've ever done. And so for me, it's really about being an athlete, but it's really about a very particular kind of athlete, you versus nature, you versus yourself, not necessarily that great. I love team sports. They're fun too. But for me, I'm really interested in pushing the boundaries. And when you're standing on that 1,000-foot precipice and it's death on that side and death on this side, life gets a lot more simple. And so for me, it's always chasing those things and chasing that.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. Ryan, keep him in check though. You guys need to write more movies too. Don't have him do too many risky things.
He has plans for Everest and within 5 years, so we got to crank him out before he does that.
Awesome. You guys, so much fun to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time and giving me the honest answers. And I enjoyed it. And I can't wait what's next. So keep on pushing boundaries, keep on writing great things. And so far, so great.
Thank you, Jim. This is a great question. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Hope we catch up on the next one, whatever project you work on. I'm always going to talk to you guys.
Next movie, we're going to call you. All right.
Hey, you got it. Take care, boys. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.